The Roman Empire didn't fall because of barbarians. It didn't fall because of moral decay or political corruption or military overstretch. It fell, at least in part, because of a cooking ingredient, one that the Romans used every single day in almost every dish they ate. And they had absolutely no idea it was killing them. The ingredient was called defrutum, a grape syrup, reduced wine boiled down in lead pots until it thickened. The Romans put it in everything: wine, sauces, preserved fruit, meat dishes. It was their sugar, their MSG. Every time they cooked with it, they were leaching lead acetate directly into their food. Lead acetate has a name the Romans themselves recorded, sugar of lead, because it tastes sweet. The poison didn't announce itself. The thing that was killing them tasted exactly like something they wanted more of. This wasn't a fringe habit. Appice's, the only Roman cookbook that survives, calls for defrutum in at least a third of its recipes. Roman wine was routinely spiked with defrutum to improve flavor. Lead pipes carried the water. Lead vessels stored the food. Aristocrats who ate richest and drank most had the heaviest exposure. Chronic lead poisoning, the slow kind, it produces a very specific set of symptoms: fatigue, irritability, cognitive decline, infertility, gout. The Romans described all of these conditions in their ruling class repeatedly across centuries. They just didn't connect them to a single source. The Romans weren't stupid. They were operating without a category. Lead poisoning as a disease didn't exist in their understanding. What existed were symptoms scattered across different bodies, separated by years, with no common thread anyone could pull on. A senator who couldn't father children, an emperor with violent mood swings, a wealthy widow with joint pains so severe she couldn't walk. These were personal misfortunes, not symptoms of a systemic chemical problem. They had no way to see the pattern because the pattern required a kind of thinking that hadn't been invented yet. Researchers at Harvard found detectable levels of microplastics in human blood in 2022. Every person tested. We don't yet know what chronic microplastic exposure does to a human body over a lifetime. No human has ever lived a full lifetime with this level of exposure before. We are the first generation. We are, right now, the Romans cooking with defrutum. The historian John Scarborough, who spent decades tracing Roman pharmacology, found something almost unbearable. The Romans actually knew lead was a poison. They said so. Pliny the Elder wrote about the dangers of lead fumes from smelting. Vitruvius, the architect, warned against lead pipes and recommended clay ones instead. The knowledge existed, it just never got attached to the food. The distance between cause and effect was too long, and the reward, that sweetness, was too immediate. This is actually the mechanism of most large-scale self-harm. The pleasure is now, the consequence is later, and later feels like someone else's problem. Lead poisoning took decades to accumulate. Climate change takes decades to manifest. Ultra-processed food takes years to degrade a body. We do not have the cognitive hardware to weigh a slow, diffuse cost against an immediate, specific pleasure. The Romans didn't either. Nobody does. This is not a Roman failure. This is a human structure. The archaeologist Jerome Triage estimated that Roman aristocrats were ingesting somewhere between 250 and 1,000 micrograms of lead per day. Some emperors and senators were consuming 200 times the dose we now consider dangerous. These were the people managing armies, setting policy, choosing heirs. The command structure of the most powerful state in the Western world was being quietly, continuously, chemically impaired. Not broken, just slower. The calculations of empire were getting harder than they needed to be. Rome didn't collapse from lead poisoning. Nothing has one cause. But the empire ran for centuries with its leadership operating at something less than full capacity, poisoned by the very marker of their wealth and refinement. They thought the sweet syrup was a luxury. They thought the lead pipes were an upgrade. They thought they were building something that would last forever. They weren't wrong about everything. We're still talking about them. We just can't ask them what else they got wrong and didn't notice until it was already too late. If this made you think, drop a comment below and subscribe for more videos like this.